Hello, thank you for joining us here on episode number 19 of a Learning Lifestyle series. Today I'm going to talk to you about boarding school. The only reason why I'm talking to you about that, it might seem a bit odd in the Home Educating Learning Lifestyle series to be talking about boarding school, but I need to talk to you about that because it's been coming up a lot recently. And that is, well, let me share the testimony with you. Recently, a mom came up to me and she shared her heart with me to tell me that her heart was actually breaking because her husband was insisting that their children went to boarding school the following year. Now, she was currently home educating, and her husband had been to boarding school himself, and he had received a lot of value from having been at boarding school, and he felt his children needed to have the experience. It was like a life training and experience that he felt he wanted them to have. He really strongly believed that. And so this mom was torn. Her heart was breaking because she had felt the value of home education and she really didn't want the children to go to boarding school. And she said to me, I just feel like I'm being selfish and maybe it's just because I want them to stay at home. So I said to her, well, perhaps it's not just you being selfish. Have you thought about the fact that your heart is breaking? Maybe it's God's heart that is also breaking, but let me not presume that. Let me rather suggest what I can hear my mother saying to me right now, and that is something that we have practiced a lot when it comes to having to make big decisions about wanting to be sure we're making the right decision, and that is write down all the pros and cons. I'm sure you're all familiar with this method, but even so, I said to this mom, why don't you write down all the pros and cons of your children staying at home versus going to boarding school? Well, before I could even get that out of my mouth fully, she said to me, we've already done that. My husband and I sat and we wrote down the pros and cons, but his list of pros beat mine. And so I said to her, well, have you written down God's list? What is the final goal? What is the objective they're trying to reach as a family? Regarding what does God want? Does he want the children at boarding school or at home? Have you considered that? I asked her. Have you spent time on that? Well, she said, well, no, not really. They hadn't really spent time on that. And I reminded her that maybe that's why her heart is breaking, because she hasn't brought God into the decision-making process. And it was really, really important that she does that. So I just encouraged her and said to her, it is very, very important that she does that and that her and her husband look at the end result, because it could just be that his experience of boarding school and how it was when he was in boarding school could be very different now. And then once again, before I even could finish on that tack, she jumped in with saying to me, no, they've been to the boarding school. And she shared with me that it was really, really, really lovely. And everything about it would be something that a parent would want for their children. It was just offering everything. And there was no reason that she could come to in her mind that this wouldn't be good for her children. But in her heart, it was absolutely aching. And that's why she was talking to me about it, because she was really, really struggling with the fact that her heart was breaking over this. So she couldn't really come to terms with it. She wanted to do as she could see were all the good reasons that her husband had for her children going to boarding school, yet she didn't have any peace. And that was a very, very big warning sign right there. She didn't have peace. That's enough reason to stop and to bring God into the picture and not leave him out at all. So this mom said she would do that. She'll go home and she'll spend time with her husband, and they would spend time in the Word and just make sure they haven't left God out of this very big decision. Because what she was actually struggling with, what she told me about further, was that she had gained so much and the children had gained so much with them being at home. She had seen such a huge difference in their relationships with each other, in their learning and their abilities, their skills. And she felt that she could continue at home helping them to grow in these life skills. Whereas her husband felt that they were going to get more life skills and be better prepared for adult life by having the experience of going to boarding school. And so you can hear from that this poor mom was really in agony. She could see all the good that her husband could see, and yet she was struggling with this matter of not having peace. And I think to summarize this whole story of boarding school, I think it doesn't matter what the subject is whether you're making a decision about boarding school or keeping your children at home, whatever it is, I think it's really important that you as parents come to a place of peace. It's really important you don't leave God out of it and you see the bigger picture, not just your past experience, because as we all know, things change so rapidly now that past experience might not apply to today. So I think that can't be not considered. And this mom had experienced all this value of home education, and perhaps she was feeling the heartache of giving that up. Maybe that was God's heartache, and that can't not be considered. So I am on this episode number 19 that is titled Boarding School, is actually a lot more than the topic of boarding school, as you've heard. It is actually about making sure God is part of your big decision process. And very, very importantly, making sure that you as parents come to a place of peace and agreement. Because if you can picture this mom trying to settle in her heart the agony she had and her children going off to boarding school and she didn't have peace. I mean, how agonizing is that? That would have just been terrible for her and the whole family. So it's just so essential that before making final decisions and actually taking action on those decisions, to please make sure you get to this place of peace and don't move, don't act upon a decision until you're there, because it is going to be better. We all know that. We know that it'll be better if you come to that place of peace. So, peace be with all of you. Thank you for watching. Bye.